friends. Welcome to Soul Cafe. We're thrilled that you're here. And Aaron, it's good to see you. What's up?
Good to see you. Not much. It's Wednesday. It's one of those days where honestly, when it got to be like 4:30, I looked at the clock and couldn't believe it was 4:30.
Well, it's hump day. I mean, still,
Hump
I
day.
guess. I mean, I don't know what a weekend is anymore, but
I know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever the
Felt
case
like it
is.
flew by. I don't know why it felt like it flew by so much, but it felt like it flew by.
So that I've said it before, but I'll say it again. That's the crazy thing about now is you think time is crawling.
Yeah.
And then you look at your calendar and it's October, 15th or something. You're like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
That's impossible. That's
Yeah.
just not possible.
October 21st today, right? Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the
October 21st.
21st. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
I know. I was already thinking about Thanksgiving and Christmas, and my brothers and I are trying to figure out how to take my youngest brother out to a meal in between those. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already, wait, are we going to do this before Thanksgiving? Because that's only a couple weeks away.
So what are you going to do for Thanksgiving? Are you going to do the family gathering thing or no?
So we do this. We've done the same thing it's now a family tradition. The year my mom passed away, she passed away over Thanksgiving. We actually spent that Thanksgiving with our very dear friends, the Fosters, and we've sort of been adopted into their family. So for the last 9 years, we've spent Thanksgiving with them, and we're not quitting
But
now.
you're going to do that, right?
Oh
So,
yeah, we're going down to Charleston, South
so
Carolina.
I'm listening to all these people saying, you should skip your Thanksgiving. I think we're going to do it our thing this year
Yeah,
with family. Debbie's family this year. We switch families year after
yeah.
year, and but we're all going to quarantine for a week before. That's
Are
what we
you?
decided. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
we said everybody has to quarantine a week before because Debbie's parents, I mean,
yeah.
we have to protect them. So
Only a week though, not the 2 weeks that everyone's.
no, I mean, a week should do it. I
Yeah,
think.
you
I
could just
think
go get a rapid test, I guess, too, if you don't want to have to quarantine.
if it works, yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
and
if
if you
any
can
of it
if you
works,
can find some place to get it, I mean, you
take
probably
it
know
by
all the
your house.
places, so I should
Oh
talk
yeah,
to you.
I've gotten all. Yeah, right there in Old Town or in McLean, people.
I
There's
mean, I
a
haven't.
rapid
Well,
test.
McLean, okay, that's handy.
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't gotten one yet, so
yeah.
I
That
should.
one is also like a real Roto-Rooter one. That one's no joke. They're
They
digging
do the
around in
they
your
do the nose thing.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I've done the nose thing all 5 times, and I've had the blood draw. But most of the nose ones have been a little bit like, oh, I feel the pinch. This one, I was like, whoa, doc, where are you
You have
going
more,
with that thing?
you have more medical procedures than anybody I know who's healthy.
I know,
Really.
but I just like to know that I'm doing all right. Like the bionic, I got my little pulse ox here. I was just checking my pulse ox.
Oh,
Just
come on, you were
sure.
not just now before this.
Yeah, just every once in a while, I check it out, see how
Man,
we're doing. I might do an EKG while we're sitting here talking.
you're
Like
crazy. Yeah, I was checking to see what time it was and when we were
yeah.
starting. So
No,
yeah,
I was
I
checking to
wouldn't.
see what my pulse ox was. 99. So we're good, guys. We're good. Just so in case anyone's worried about
So
me.
almost Halloween, and
Yeah.
then it'll be Thanksgiving already. And then
Yeah.
I was talking to my daughter and I was saying, Christmas, and she's like, that's so far away. I'm like, it's not.
Not
It's almost here.
7, 8 weeks or something.
So did you hear the big news? This is the
Oh,
big news. To me this week, the big news is this. Charlie Brown. Do you know the news?
no, I
Yeah.
don't.
Charlie Brown Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas specials will no
Oh,
longer be on network
oh,
TV.
I was like, what?
No,
I thought
they're
you were
not.
cutting it off.
They're not
Why?
coming on network TV. They're not. They will not be on ABC as
Why?
always. They're exclusively on Apple TV. So there you go.
Goodness gracious. I think I actually luckily get a subscription, I'm sure, through one of the ridiculous.
I mean, I'll find it, but come on, that's just
I have the
this
DVD.
is wrong.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, the Pope is making a lot of statements these days. I feel like this is one he should make something about. This is big.
It's so
This is
good,
just
especially the
huge.
dance scene.
I mean, I think Chris Clifford didn't know, and he's
Yeah,
watching now because
and now he's just
and
crying.
he's crying. I mean, the Christmas special. Come
It's
on,
especially, I mean, it's the best
how
one.
can that's not it? That it wouldn't be on network TV. I just don't know what to do. I'm going to cut the cord. It's just it's not right.
Jim, here's just a newsflash for you. Lots of people have already cut the
Oh,
cord,
I know.
even me. Well,
I'm
then
a,
I don't
I'm a,
watch
I'm
TV,
aware.
so
I'm aware of that.
it's.
It's sports that keeps me rolling.
I think you can even get all of that now on YouTube.
You can kind of, sort of,
Kinda.
a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know all about that. I can tell you about my setups, but anyway, yeah, I still pay for some stuff.
Yeah.
So we
That's
got kind of
shocking.
your program tonight, cybersecurity. So
Cybersecurity. Yeah. I
yeah,
just figured why
one of your
not?
coworkers.
One of my coworkers, who's also a believer and someone I really, really respect and like, and have been able to talk to about a lot of different things, but also has a wonderful way of, from a layman's perspective, breaking down security, cybersecurity. and election security and all sorts of things that we're all thinking about. So I just thought
Yeah,
it
he
would be
seems
fun
like
to
a
listen
really
to it.
good guy too. I got to
Yeah.
know him because I'm always on here before you.
Yes,
So
we are. I
I
was,
met him and we talked a little, and he's a nice guy. I
yeah.
like him. So,
Yes.
I think that's a big deal now. I've heard a lot of people saying that the big deal about people working from home now is that companies can't control some of the cybersecurity issues their
That's one of the
employees deal
things.
with.
Yep.
So that's going to be, I guess, a big deal.
Yep.
And then, so he's your coworker, and I like him, and we look forward to talking to him. But before that, we have kind of a special treat. So Aaron is he's going to be off for, I think he's going to be off for a few weeks here.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah. Sounds like he's doing like a trip across the country or
yeah,
something.
cross country for
Really fun.
November. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so we have to reach back into our archives and find some of our favorite people
The
and
original
the
OG.
the golden oldies. It's hard to think of Ryan Walker as a golden oldie, but
know,
he
right?
is. He is.
No younger than me.
So here's the thing about Ryan. So Ryan and I started Soul Cafe at Columbia. I actually had done something very much like this at my former church, but Ryan really got Soul Cafe. Like it was so much fun to do this with him because he got the whole nexus of, I think he gets the whole intersection thing. And so I'm really excited that he said he would come on and do this tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exciting.
So he's doing an interim in a church music position, and therefore that's where he is getting ready to rehearse. So we're going to promote him and bring him into the main room and talk to him a little. And he's got some reverb going on in that room too. So so Ryan, be sure you unmute there, buddy. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing well as can be. Thank you. How are you all doing?
Doing well.
Okay.
I really enjoyed talking to you this week, man. Catching up about old times.
We had a great talk. Yeah.
Can you believe those are old times?
I don't know what that means, really. I mean,
they're
old times. I mean,
it's like 16 years ago. You and I went to that
worship
conference down in Nashville. You remember that?
I was going to ask when did you guys do Soul Cafe together? How long?
We started it 17 years ago. So Ryan,
oh my gosh.
Ryan, when I first came, there was a praise leader here who I won't go into that, but very quickly I wanted to pivot. See, that's the big word of the day. That word has no meaning anymore, by the way. But anyway, and
but I was 8 years old.
Hard to believe. Ryan was like, you were young though. You weren't 8, but you were young. And so Ryan was just so talented and pretty amazing guy. So Ryan agreed to be our praise leader. And how did you do that? 3 or 4 years? How long? 5? It was a while.
7 years. I was I had done some fill in and stuff before that, but when you became the pastor and you brought me on permanently, that was the next 7 years.
That is hard to believe. That's hard to believe. But anyway, he was awesome. And we started Soul Cafe, this thing called Soul Cafe. And so Ryan, I wonder if you remember some elements of the old Soul Cafe. So do you remember, did you by any chance pull up today the crime report for Falls Church?
I gotta say, I am very out of touch with what's going on crime-wise in Falls Church.
Yeah, because Ryan used to every week he'd read the crime report from Falls Church. So
I mean, it is priceless.
It is. People, like arrested for spitting on the sidewalk, and what were some of the other?
It would be like someone would break into somewhere and steal like a dog. The only thing missing would be like a dog food bowl or something. It'd be like, what did someone need that for? Or,
yeah, and Ryan would talk about.
And we don't want to endorse, theft of dog food bowls. We don't, but in the grand scheme of things, they were sort of pretty minor offenses. That was a fun thing to do. And then,
that was an every week.
Kelly Burke and Natalie Kent, who, of course, Natalie Kent, who's still in worship leadership there at Columbia. She's famous. She's famous now. Yeah. At Columbia, anyway.
She would be on Soul Cafe with you?
Yeah. Those people.
Yeah.
We had a rotating cast of characters around Ryan and me, and it was fun.
They'd come in my office about 6:30, and I would say, "Let's do this song and this song and this song and this song," and then we would just go up there at 7 and make it happen. But it was always
a variety show, right? It was a little bit. You said it was a little bit more like Prairie Home Companion.
Yeah, no, we Ryan and I used to say we were gonna. This is really dating this thing, but it was going to be the Dave Letterman of church, shows. So we just sort of rotate. And
I'm working on my Dave Letterman,
stuff.
beard.
You're doing pretty well with that, actually. All right. So how about this? How about Ryan's got 2 songs. And so Ryan, you sing one and then tell us what you're up to these days and how we can get connected to what you're up to these days, and then sing another one. How about that?
That sounds great.
Sound good? All right.
Okay.
All right. Take it away.
Well, can you hear let's see, I'll point this so you can sort of see a little better here. Can you hear that all right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're live.
And got some of this here too. So
it's good.
Very important these days, right?
You don't want to infect the guitar.
Yeah.
No,
or
no,
yourself.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am in. Well, I'll get to that. I wanted to start. I thought I would play this one because this is an old song that I know is one of your favorites, Jim. And my band still plays this a lot. It's sort of still very applicable. And it's kind of been through some changes, but this is sort of the way I originally wrote it, just on a guitar. So I was going to do this one for you guys, but this is called "All the World Is New."
Oh, man.
And I'm going to try to see if I can remember all the words to it, because I haven't played these songs in at least about, well, this one probably, definitely not this year, definitely not in 2020. So here we go. We'll try it out. I found out what was going on. There was no doubt in my mind. Nothing said, nothing done. It was alright. I know now what I knew before, but I know more than you. Don't mean to sound harsh, just thought that you would like to hear it like it is. Oh, the world is gone. Oh, the world is new. You haven't learned a thing that's of any use to you. Wind is blowing high on everything you do. Find that it's okay, not know what to do. Came to me in a dream, fast and loud, like a band that can't say no. And then the walls came down, and everybody turned around. It was completely indescribable. Now we live alone. Is it worth all the bridges we burn? Is it worth all the days we spent wishing for more time? The wind is blowing high. One of these days is true. It's perfectly okay, not know what to do. Find another way, we know
Ryan, that was a gift, man. That's one of my favorite songs of yours.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
I love that piece. That takes me back. So, you know what I love about that piece musically is the accidental in the word okay. It somehow makes that whole thing come together.
Oh yeah. You're getting into some music theory there. That's great.
Yeah, it shifts right there. There's like a shift in mood. So, Ryan, what you up to these days, man? I can see you're in a church. And it's not a church I've been in before. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess there's the bigger answer and then the shorter term answer, but I mean, since I led worship at Columbia, I've been mostly living life as a professional musician, which has been quite an adventure. I play in I still have a band called the Beanstalk Library. People may remember that. And in fact, right before quarantine started, we played a big show on the wharf.
I remember that.
I think Aaron might have been at that show.
I was there. It was so much fun. It was like a really little reunion of quite a few people from Columbia.
Some of y'all were out there. That was really great. So if we never get to play again, that was a great way to go out.
It was a great way to go out. Yeah,
really a lot of fun. So I've also just been playing keyboard and bass guitar and stuff like that, just kind of whatever is necessary, kind of freelance with some different people in their bands. So I've been in a few other bands as well, playing with some different singer-songwriters. I played guitar in Melodyne for a stretch there. That was a while back. They were in between guitar players, so I played with Brad for a fair amount there. We played a bunch of shows together in Ocean City, so that was that may be a whole episode sometime. We could talk about that, but just just been a great adventure to travel the country with various people that I love so much and playing music and then also just been teaching quite a bit. And in fact, this year it's been a real blessing to have that going on and to be able to do that virtually for the most part. I have a lot of colleagues that are artists and also just people that work in service industry, bartenders, things like that. These venues being shut down, people are struggling.
Yeah.
And I've been really grateful to be able to at least be able to keep teaching and to really thrive in that way. And then I've been the interim worship or music director at Commonwealth Baptist Church in Delray in Alexandria, which is a sanctuary where I am right now. And
so you guys are going to rehearse tonight, right? So
so we've been doing virtual.
Are they all over there watching you and waiting for you right now? So you have an audience?
There's not anyone in here right now. They may come in a little bit.
Because I know you, Ryan. You're like me. An audience makes it way better.
Yes. Well, I mean, I know I can really sense all those people out there that are watching tonight at Soul Cafe, and it's great to have all you with us. I don't know. Can you see how many people are tuned in? I don't know.
I can't from where I am, but somebody can. So if people want to connect,
the social medias and stuff are just like blowing up. So I mean, here's somebody.
It might be. So,
an audience.
So how can people connect with what you're doing now? So let's say somebody should want to take a lesson in piano or guitar, and they'd like for the famous Ryan Walker to be their teacher. How would they connect with you?
Yeah, well, I'm fairly booked up right now. I can give you my email address, I suppose. I can always, it just depends on who they are, where they live, what they're interested in, whatever. But I can give you, I'll tell you what, why don't you, maybe if people are watching, they're interested, they could get in touch with you.
They could contact me, and I have your email address, so
that'd be great.
Number, so I can get them in touch with you. And how about?
And what I will give out is the website, thebeanstalklibrary.com is always a great way because we had really built up a lot of good momentum with some stuff we were working on right before everything kind of got shut down. So we're kind of eager to get back out there when the time is right. So I'd love for people to log on there and just check out our music if they haven't before. And we're going to be releasing some new stuff we're working on and just kind of follow what we're doing there. And then I'm also on November 20th. Really excited to be playing keyboard with a singer-songwriter named Bobby Thompson. And that's going to be at the Birchmere in Alexandria. And now I won't be shocked if this does not end up happening. You know, because a lot of things get scheduled and canceled these days. But as of now, it's looking like that may be something I'll be doing on November 20th. And you know,
and you said
tickets are available at thebirchmere.com.
And that's one of the few venues you haven't played here yet, you said.
It's the only music venue in the DC area that I have never played, so I'm really excited about that. So apparently they're doing that they've got the tables arranged so that it's socially distanced and safe and all that stuff. But there's some of the venues that are more seated venues are starting to experiment with that. So that'll be kind of exciting to kind of see how that
like
how
the
that
Rose
plays
Garden,
out.
for example, the Rose Garden out here.
I think it's maybe going to have a few more precautions taken than that. But
well, what are you going to play for us next?
Well, I'm going to. I was going to play something here. One of the cool things about that I've been doing since I've been working here at Commonwealth Baptist is sometimes there's a spot in the service where I'm occasionally able to kind of share songs that are some of the ones that I used to do at Soul Cafe. A lot of times, more quote unquote secular songs, but with maybe a theological or a spiritual theme. And one singer songwriter that I just love, who just does that kind of stuff so well, is this guy named Steve Earle. And this is a song that's was written by him kind of in the aftermath of 9/11, but again, a lot of these themes and things, well, they always have a way of coming back around and feeling apropos through various world events and historical things that happen. So anyway, this is one I did here in the service, maybe over the summer at some point, that went over real well, but I wanted to share this one. I really love this song. This is called Jerusalem. I woke up this morning, none of the news was good, and death machines were rumbling across the ground where Jesus stood. And a man on my TV told me it'll always been that way, and there's nothing anyone could do or say. And I almost listened to him. Yeah, I almost lost my mind, and I regained my senses again. And looked into my heart to find that I believe in one fine day all children of Abraham will lay down their swords forever in Jerusalem. Maybe I'm only dreaming, maybe I'm just a fool, but I don't remember learning how to hate in Sunday school. Somewhere along the way I strayed, yeah, I never look back again, but I still find some comfort now and then. And the storm comes rumbling in, and I can't lay me down when the drums are drumming again. And I can't stand the sound, but I believe there'll come a day when the lion and the lamb will lie down in peace together. and there'll be no barricades then. And there'll be no wire walls, and we can wash all this blood from our hands. And all this hatred from our souls. And I believe that on that day, all children of Abraham will lay down their swords forever in Jerusalem.
And that was awesome. That's got a 1960s
good.
kind of a feel to it.
It
Thanks,
does.
thanks.
I can
By
see how you
Steve
like
Earle.
that. This I've never heard of him, so that's
Oh,
cool.
I like him. Yeah.
Check it out. Check it out.
Yeah, so
I'll plug
this-
him too.
This really makes me nostalgic, Ryan. I got to tell you, miss you, man. Miss Lee.
Well, it's been really. I loved hearing from you the other day, and I loved having the opportunity to be on there with you guys. I occasionally get to watch Soul Cafe, particularly if one of my family members is on it. I try to tune in.
Your brother-in-law. or
And you guys
something
are doing
like
a great thing. So I'm really proud that it's just continuing on, and it's a really great program. So.
that. Cool. Glad you like it, and I'll see you next week for lunch.
I'm looking forward to it.
I am too, man. Take care. Love you.
You're
All right, you
Ryan.
too. Take care, guys.
Bye bye. All right, so you're a panelist now.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about? This is a different topic, I think.
It is a different topic, but it's important. Well, we were thinking about, or I was thinking about election security and all this
Mhm.
stuff in the news, but also my new job. So I took on, actually worked with one of our church members, Elizabeth Jimenez, who I need to say thank you to because she is someone I started podcasting for and working with, and she is actually in the cybersecurity and managed security services industry. And by way of her, I was introduced to CyberClan. And CyberClan has been a client of mine for the last, 6 months or so. And I just made it official and went internal with their team. So full disclosure, this is one of my colleagues that's coming on tonight. But I have really enjoyed the last 6 months learning about cybersecurity. And I approached it the same way I approached the automotive industry when I got into it, and the venture philanthropy industry when I got into it, and entertainment. It's just, what's the business? How does it impact the world? What is it doing? And there's a lot to uncover. And there's no one that says it in a more useful and relatable way than one Mr. Larry Whiteside, who is with us this evening. So he is our Chief Technology Officer. He's also my partner in crime on our weekly show called The Incidentally in the News. So he and I most weeks get to do a show together as well, where we're sort of just picking up the headlines every week of what's going on in the world of cybersecurity. And he gets to break it down for me so that I can get to understand it in layman's terms. So I just thought it's a really interesting thing, and it affects everybody. We all read about it in the news, and there are times when our own personal data is compromised, but also when supply chain issues can come up, and we don't really maybe understand why things are delayed.
So
And a
he's a
lot of
nice
times-
guy too, and
Yeah,
a
he's a
strong
nice
a strong
guy.
believer. I got to
And
know
a
him pretty
strong
well
believer.
because I always get to meet the panelists when we're waiting for Aaron to come on. So
I mean,
It's all right,
admittedly,
Aaron.
6:30 to 7 is a long
panelists are
time
always
to be on a Zoom screen.
right. That's true, but the panelists are always eager because they don't want to let us down, so they
Yeah.
come on right
Larry
on
and I were
time.
texting each other. I was like, I'm scarfing down my dinner right
And
now.
you
So the
said
difference was
Jim
that
will be on there. Don't worry.
I
I'm sure you
said
did.
the difference is I usually am eating in our pre-game time, and I usually always get
Well, this time Larry
for
ate in
that,
your pregame
so
time.
I decided to eat off screen this week.
But anyway,
with
I
my
got to know
family.
him. He's a good guy. So what's he going to teach us?
Well, one thing I thought we could start out with, Larry, which I think is one of my favorite. What's it? I'm losing all my words at the end of a very long day. Metaphor is how you explain cybersecurity. You use the house, right? Like you explain it like a house. And how do people need to think about what is cybersecurity at its basic, and when did it start becoming like a big thing for everyone to be thinking about it? How could you explain that to our audience watching today?
Yeah, so cybersecurity, right? It's interesting because the media tries to make it this big nebulous thing, and the reality is it's not. Cybersecurity really comes down to data. It comes down to information, right? And a couple of things that just from a basic everyday standpoint, we as regular everyday people are horrible with protecting data.
Horrible.
We give data out via social media. We give data out via all sorts of mechanisms and ways on a regular basis without even thinking about it. And at the end of the day, everything related to cybersecurity is about data. Every company, it's about data, right? So I've got a million analogies. I don't even remember the house one. I come up with them off the top of my head.
You do come up with them off the cuff. I'm always like, well, I haven't heard that one before, but that works too.
So, but at the end of the day, so I'll ask you a question. Do you know what the second most important number is to you as a person besides your social security number?
Date of birth?
Yep.
Is it? Okay.
And where, name two places that you probably have your date of birth without thinking about it. Did you just give it out?
Driver's license and
restaurants that you want freebies from.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, because or Amazon or somewhere that gives you like a birthday special.
Yeah.
All of them, right? It's on everybody's Facebook page. Everybody makes their birthday public.
You know, I thought about this the other day, Larry. You don't have to give them your real birthday, but we all do.
But we all do.
A friend of mine actually once posted the wrong one, and everyone wishes them happy birthday on the wrong day on Facebook. It's pretty funny.
No, it's interesting, right? So you then have people who post the wrong one on LinkedIn, but the right one on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're connected to them on both, you see the discrepancy,
right?
And so the reality is if you think about data, and we can use any analogy of our choice, right? It's about protecting data. So if you live in a house, right? If you live in, we'll go with a house analogy.
I like he's gonna figure it out anyway. It's gonna be a new one.
Right?
I like this.
So if you live in a house, right, and you have everybody's got windows and doors, right? Do you live in a house and do you leave your front door unlocked? Nobody does, right? It's
Aaron does. This is
well,
where you're wrong.
Aaron does, right?
Your
I'm the unicorn. Remember,
your cybersecurity partner does leave her door unlocked all the time. I happen to know this
all day.
So I will say there are parts of the country where that's a thing. I lived in Michigan for 2 years, and literally our entire neighborhood left the front doors unlocked. It was new to me.
Well, it was too cold. Nobody was outside.
Now he lives in Florida. Everybody's outside.
Yeah, but you just think about it. But you keep your windows closed for the most part, right? So the reality is, it's about building some aspect of protection, right? We as a society, we as human beings, just have this innate sense of trust related to companies. Oh, they asked me for my birthday. Of course, I'll give that to them because, right? They need that because they're asking for it. Well, actually, they don't. We have to get into a mode, right? Our personal data is at so much stake. Everybody should go watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible. I watched it. It is amazing.
It will change your mind.
It didn't change my mind. It convinced me I was right about social media.
Well, but here's the thing. But we all sort of knew this, right? Mm-hmm. So to something that Aaron started going into about election security. So I don't think people realize what election security really means today, right? Because people tend to think that, oh, somebody's going to hack the machine that I'm putting myself into. No. Election security is not about hacking those machines. Election security is about hacking you, right? And today we're all being hacked on a regular basis as it relates to. Be quiet, Alexa. She thought
right now you're being hacked by Alexa. You're being hacked, right?
I'm being hacked by Alexa.
Larry has that in his. It's all over my house. So
Alexa, stop. No, so I do believe that I don't say anything inside my home that I'm worried about Alexa, recording or Google Home recording.
Not that you know of. My wife claims that we reveal secrets all the time. I don't know what they are, but apparently we do.
It's. He literally wasn't listening to me. I felt like it was one of my children.
Don't say the name.
No, but so if you think about it, every day we're being hacked. And how are we being hacked, you asked? I'm glad you asked. At the end of the day, if you think about the divide that's happened in this country, the divide that's happened in this country is because people have chosen to pick their news from certain places. And then what happened is social media that everybody is on, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whether it's LinkedIn, the algorithms that they utilize continue to feed you the things that you like. So you then think that your point is validated because it's coming from these other sources. Right. The reality is you look into who the sources are, they are on one side or they are the other. And so because you're getting validated by people who believe the same thing as you doesn't mean your point is actually right. It doesn't mean that your opinion is actually a valid one. But because we continue to get fed that, and these algorithms are doing that, this country is doing just like this, right? And so that is election security. Election security is about us as people being sheep and not doing our own aspect of research to understand where is the information that I'm getting this from coming from?
Right.
What is the background of the source? Who are they? Who are they funded by? What is their particular agenda? Why don't I go to another source and try and corroborate? I can't tell you how many times over the last 5 years I've seen a report come out about a sports athlete. And because I'm a big sports guy. So on my Facebook feed, I get tons of sports stuff. And I'll see a news feed come out, ESPN, about a particular athlete. But if I go look up the report doesn't even exist. The reporter is not a real reporter. But if you look at the actual, it looks like it's ESPN. The link shows that it's ESPN, right? And so when you look at it, everything about it looks like it's ESPN. And if I click on it, it brings up a real web page that looks like it's ESPN. But if I look for that reporter and I just go to Google and search that reporter does not exist.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's that level of hacking us as people. They're not trying to get into the school network to get to the voting machine that's on the school network. It's not that level of hacking. Now, is there some of that? Yeah, but that is the nuance, right? Real deep nation state. No, the regular everyday thing when we're hearing about these Russian entities, like the FBI just came out announced today, right? These 6 Russian guys as part of the RU, whatever that is, right? That they're indicted, and they got help from the big tech companies to do it, right? But the actual hacking of the election is misinformation. We have got to start doing better as a nation of recognizing and looking into the things that we are getting fed. I've had to have this conversation with both people my age and older who should know better, who lived in the age before all this information was being automatically fed to us. And I've had to have this conversation with teenagers, right? Mm-hmm. Who they see, oh, I got 10 people on Twitter that I follow that all sent the same article. Then, oh yeah, I'm going to repeat that and I'm going to regurgitate that. No. Do you know where that came from? Do you know what the origin of it is? And so that is election security today. That is what it's all about, because right now, right, and regardless of who you want, whether you want Trump, you want Biden, you're Republican or Democrat, right now, there's misinformation on both sides, because certain governments want, right, one side to win, and there's certain other foreign governments who want the other side to win. So there is so much information that we've got to do a better job at taking care of that.
Or they just like confusing us by supporting both. But it leads to the point like that you talk about. I mean, one of the big points that we're always pointing out to a lot of the corporate clients we have is that 90% of breaches that happen at companies is through social engineering. So it's like us humans, we're like the worst firewall. We are the most susceptible. We're the ones who are letting people into our companies' databases, into our company infrastructures, which is insane. And so like Larry and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, Jim, I don't know if you saw this article, but where I think it was the Chicago Tribune, they got hounded in the press because they ran a phishing exercise within their company, which means they intentionally send out phishing emails to their staff who sucks it, who falls for these things. But it happened to be all about bonuses that weren't actually happening.
Yeah, and actually, Brett and I were just talking to somebody the other day who was doing this, and we said we should do this at church. So we get phished all the time, although it's more like somebody who skims our website and, they scrape all the email addresses off, and then they send out an email from me. I'm sure Cyril gets them all the time, saying, "Hey, help me out with this." And we've had a couple people fall for it, actually. Yeah. So we said we should do this.
Well, we know someone who can help you with that, but but it was interesting because they got really slammed because people said, well, that wasn't a very nice topic for you to use in a time when we're all suffering financially. And we really thought there might've been bonuses. It was like, well, okay, it was a bonehead move to use that particular, but at the same time, did you fall for it? Right. That was the important part about it.
Well, they lost the bonus that they fell for it.
But here's the reality. Hackers don't take a break because all people are right now dealing with financial issues, so we won't touch that topic. That's not how this works, right? Hackers literally utilize the things that are available to them. Oh, a hurricane just happened? Yes, we're going to set up fake funds, right? For you to go donate, right? Go donate to this hurricane relief, right? Please use your credit card and put it in there. Oh, that's a fake hurricane relief fund. Go figure, right? So hackers are opportunistic. You have to realize there's no retirement plan in hacking, right? They don't have 401ks. So they're going to be as opportunistic as they can to take advantage of people during their most vulnerable time. So pandemic, yes, vulnerable time, right? Major weather catastrophes, vulnerable time, right? Any type of weather incidents, vulnerable times. 9/11, vulnerable time. Like they're going to do that, and they want to get you because they recognize when you're vulnerable, you're weak. When you're weak, you're susceptible, and that's what we've got to start being more diligent about, right? I mean, I can tell you, and I find this hilarious. So I get probably 6 phone calls a week about the 0% interest on my credit cards.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yep.
They're calling me and they're like, we want to offer you 0% interest on your credit card. So let me just be very clear. Number one, nobody's ever going to call you that's valid. And when you pick up the phone, it's a recording. Just
right.
like I think off the jump for everybody who watches this ever, understand no valid entity is ever going to call you. And when you pick up the phone, it's a recording. There's no such thing as a free vacation. It just doesn't exist.
No, those recordings are getting better. I can still tell when they are.
Right.
But they have machine learning now that allows them to respond to you in such a way that they really sound live. And it's crazy.
No, it is, right? But we've got to, as people, have more discernment and be able to cut through the noise, right? But then take this to the next step. So say it is a live person, right? Anybody that calls you about anything, right? And they're making you an offer that sounds too good to be true. See, part of our problem is we always want something for nothing. That doesn't exist, right? The only thing that we get for something for nothing is God's love. We get it, right? We get God's love regardless of how good or how bad you are. We get it. Thank you. Other than that, there's no such thing as something for nothing. And we get into this mode of, oh man, maybe this is a new car, maybe this is a free trip, maybe no, it doesn't happen. So then when they get on the phone, because I'm gonna tell you, I get joy out of keeping them on the phone as long as possible.
I do too, but it's just kind of a game.
No, it is. But so my point is, when I do it, I do this, and I've had them get mad. I've had them curse at me, right? Because I've had them on the phone for 20 plus minutes. I've given them fake card numbers. And right, because I'm telling them, well, you should have the last 4. I gave you, the first few, so you should have the last 4. And so they get upset. But for me, it's like the more time they spend on the phone with me, that's less time that they're spending on the phone with somebody who might fall for it, right? So if I can spend 10 minutes on the phone with them, right, that's 8 more minutes than they'll spend trying to get somebody else who's going to fall for it. Because in Florida is by far out of all the states falling for it the worst because they're preying on the elderly.
It's the number of senior adults. Even in our church, we've had some senior adults lose some serious money with some scams like this. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the things that we were talking about, Larry, because the data is really important, but the bigger the hacks that are happening now, like ransomware, which if people don't understand what ransomware it is, it's when someone actually attacks you and then holds you hostage for money, usually in some sort of cryptocurrency. But the challenge with ransomware, at least that I'm starting to learn about, is that if you have a bank account, meaning if you are a company, an entity that has a bank account, it doesn't really matter what they do to you, so long as they can do something to incapacitate your business where you can then have to go access your bank account, they'll come hack you. So it's not always, so it is about data, but what a lot of people I think have grown a little bit, I won't say lazy, but just complacent in, is that it's always just about my credit card. So if I'm never online, if I don't do any of this stuff, I'll never really feel the effects of any kind of cyber breach. But now that people have proven that hacking into machinery, hacking into the Internet of Things, I mean, COVID is the number one thing. I keep saying to people, like, we've all now seen what it looks like when supply chains get ruined just simply because we've closed physical borders due to pandemics. Supply chains can go down in a heartbeat through data breaches. And so all of a sudden, when you don't, we've had 2 major maritime organizations get hit with cyber breaches, which means that their ships were legit out in the middle of the ocean with no place to go because they
cargo could not get to its destination.
It's insane how many things it can really impact. And I was talking to my brother the other day. He's been insulin dependent since he was 8. He got that insulin pump probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and 2 to 3 years ago now, it completely regulates his insulin via Bluetooth from his device. If someone hacks into that, I mean, that's life and death.
My mother's pacemaker, same way. So Larry, I'm curious, what percentage of these, so when people hack into a company or, a maritime corporation or whatever, what percentage of those hacks are enabled by some human being falling for a phishing scam or a phone call or something like that? And what percentage are people actually hacking into the systems? I've always been curious about this. So, it's always presented as though they hacked our systems. But my suspicion is they probably got in through a person.
Yeah. So I'll go through where it was and where it is, right? So, and I don't have exact percentages, but I can say in the 90s and early 2000s, most breaches were somebody actually hacked an actual computer system. It was left unpatched. It didn't have the latest updates or whatever, and or it had poor configuration, and somebody actually hacked it. Today, in the last 5 years, the majority of the breaches are happening through the human, right? Because somebody is clicking on something, somebody's going to a website that they shouldn't go to, or a website that's been compromised, and they are getting what's called drive-by downloads, and things are then compromising their computer, right? Yeah. And so there's a myriad of things that happen, but at the end of the day, the carbon-based life form is the weakest link in the entire thing.
It's easier to fix systems than it is to change human nature.
100%.
I think that's the whole deal.
I mean, that's why they do those phishing exercises and such, just to see like, no, that was totally fake. And that, you just allowed someone into our system theoretically by us running that exercise on you. And it's interesting because I've been trying to learn from these guys of like, it's ones and zeros as far as I'm concerned. And I don't even understand what those ones and zeros do. But when they go and they like take me through a retrospective of breach, like, okay, we were called in because the malware finally was deployed in the system. But when we went in, we saw that like 4 months ago, this dormant email address that belonged to a former employee that they never got rid of was in there, and someone tried to make an attempt. And then 3 months before that, we saw that these two things were doing and so the threat actors are like in people's systems. They could be in there 6 months fishing around before they decide to do something.
287 days is the current relative statistic about how long they're in before the breach actually happens.
That's crazy, really.
Right? Yeah,
that's incredibly patient. So
because what happens?
Of course, all they have to do though is have an algorithm working, right? So machines are working on that system.
No. So what they do is when they hack the human, right? So they get somebody to download something, right? They then do what's called command and control. That will then reach out and create a connection to an external system that then allows them to tunnel back in through that connection, right? So so say you click on an email that has something in it, right? So it's not necessarily going to just now encrypt your drive, right? Or encrypt your laptop. What is going to happen most of the time is it's going to install something inside of your operating system that looks like it's a normal file. But what it does is it creates an encrypted tunnel out of the environment into their command and control server sitting out there in
it's a Trojan horse,
right?
Yeah.
So then they connect back from that command and control server back into your environment, and that's when they start poking around. That's when they start trying to see what other things they can get into from where you are, which is why we say end users having administrative privileges on their device shouldn't happen in a company setting. Right? Because they're going to utilize those admin privileges that you have on your device to then make your device do things internally and connect to other things that it probably shouldn't. And so that's why when our incident response teams go in, they go in for this one incident that ultimately happened, but they can then backtrack and see all of these things that happened prior that nobody ever saw because nobody was looking for it.
Right.
Because it used to be attackers would come in and they were banging on the door, right? Banging. They were trying to check in every window, checking every lock to see what they can find, right? They don't do that anymore. Now what they do is what we used to call a low and slow attack. But they will sit and for months at a time, right? For months, there will be nothing happening, and then you'll see a little activity, and then it'll go quiet. and then you'll see a little activity.
They ring
and
the
then it'll go
doorbell to
quiet.
check your furnace, and then they stay in the basement.
Yep.
I was going with a different. I was like, well, they sit around and they see that you always walk the dog at 9 a.m. And so
Yeah.
you know from 9 to 10, they can always get into your.
No, but
I like that we're all following the same. Yeah.
It is. It is. They are patient, but and this is what you have to understand. They run these things as campaigns, right? So they're running businesses. These attackers are running regular businesses like we run businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they do is each one is a job or a campaign. And so they'll have multiple campaigns going simultaneously, right? Where they are working on this one for a little bit, and then they move off of that one, and that goes dormant for a little, and they move to the next one, and they work on this one a little bit, and then they work on this one a little bit. Like it is a very, very interesting world to dive into to understand what they're doing. But
So
as a
I'm curious.
consumer,
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was
as a
going to
con-
ask. For the typical person, besides practicing some caveat emptor, buyer beware, what exactly should somebody do to be safe?
so there are basic things that everyday users should do. Whatever system you're using, whether you're using Mac or Windows, whatever it is you have, set it to automatically update. Period, point blank, end of story. If you don't have it set to automatically update, I can guarantee your system is already pwned and somebody is on your system.
Mm-hmm.
Set it to automatically update. That's number one, the easiest thing you can do, because it keeps the basic things away, right? Because a lot of people are like, well, I literally had my ex-wife say, well, why would they want to hack me? I have nothing of importance. It's not about you. It's about your machine. It's about the horsepower that your machine has. Because have you heard of denial of service, right? So on occasion, people will say a website will be down, or people couldn't get to this web to log in to get into stuff because a denial of service attack was happening. What they did during that was they took a bunch of remote computers that they had control of and threw a bunch of packets, a bunch of data at this one site to flood it so nobody else could connect to it. Well, they don't have a million machines sitting around. No, those million machines are people's home computers.
Yeah.
Those million machines are people's home computers that they have somehow gotten onto. And a lot of times it's because people don't keep their home machines updated, right? Just period, point blank. The other thing is use multi-factor everywhere possible. Your bank account, use multi-factor. Your security cameras. I have.
Let's can we talk about that for a second? Because Aaron and I probably use multi-factor, but I'm going to tell you, a lot of people don't even know what that is. So it means that you go to your credit card company and whoever else, and you say to them, I want 2 factors or more to enter the site. So what will happen then is you give your password, et cetera, and then they will send you a code to your cell phone, for example. That's one option. And that code is necessary to get into the site. And it makes it much more difficult for somebody to hack your data.
It is because, cloning phones doesn't happen regularly, right?
Right.
And so the likelihood.
So one factor is just a password. That's not enough.
Right.
You need another factor at least, maybe a third.
Yep, absolutely. So I like the way you explained it. It that simple fact, right? Doing that is the other thing that literally protects you. So if you had a Yahoo account and your Yahoo email account got breached, and that Yahoo password you also use at your bank, and you also use to pay your bills. Well, guess what? If you had a second factor for each of those other accounts, it wouldn't matter. You could write your password on a billboard on the side of the road,
which a lot of people do. But I should say, I think it's a good idea to use a formula, but not always the same password. But people should know there is almost nobody, your bank, everybody that will not set up multi-factor entry now. Yeah.
Yep. No. But like the security cameras, I'm sure you guys have seen or heard about the security camera hacks, right? Where at one point everybody jumped on Ring because they thought Ring had major security issues because there were all these reports about people's Ring cameras, people connecting into their Ring accounts and talking through the camera to their kids in the bedroom and all sorts of things that were happening. But what it was people weren't turning on multi-factor.
Right.
They weren't turning on 2-factor. And that password that they probably had was probably the same one they used for Equifax when Equifax got hacked. And so, because what attackers do, they go and they hack this one company and they get all of this information about all of these people, email addresses, passwords, all of these different things. What they then do, that then goes into these massive databases and they begin trying those combinations of that username and that password at banks and at all these different institutions.
So they could have hacked Macy's, and they've got your password. And if you use something that is similar to that everywhere, they've got your password everywhere.
Yeah. They've got your password everywhere.
There's a couple of good places where you can check to see, like there's good websites where you can actually check. Yeah. To see which of your passwords have been hacked. I have a question because I know we're running up against the 8 o'clock hour, but because this stuff, I'm like always the resident Luddite. Everyone jokes that I still get my newspaper delivered to my door. Thank you very much. And
that's a Soul Cafe thing.
All of this, internet, the Internet of Things. I get it that it's so super exciting, but it's also terrifying to me. And I'm just curious, Larry, just as parting thoughts of like, as a Christian, as a person, as someone who just knows the dangers that exist there, but also knows how wide you can bust the world open and opportunity, inequity that you can solve through technology. How are you thinking about the next 10 years in computing and Internet of Things of like, is there an obligation, an ethical obligation for us to maybe not develop some things because it just puts us in too much harm's way for things to happen?
So it's an interesting question. The reality is the invention of the onset of technology has been a panacea that we just can't stop, right? It's going to happen, right? As well as the sprawl of information that's been collected about us as individuals is just something that's going to happen. So I don't think that we can get, I think the gate's been open, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think we can close it. I just don't see how that gets closed. Because if we think about the advances that technology has enabled us to create over the last 40 or 50 years, right? Yeah. We've made up, 200 years worth of time in the shortest time ever, right?
Yeah.
So I don't see that stopping, and I see that continuing to drive. What I think we have to do is we have to be open and aware, right? So I think to this point, just the everyday person has not been as aware of all of these changes and its real impact, right? So things like that thing we talked about on Netflix, right? Mm-hmm. That show on Netflix, those types of things, those types of documentaries are important for people to look at, just for awareness and education to understand where we're going, right? Because there are cities like London where there's not a corner you can stand on where there's not a video camera.
Or Washington D.C.
Or Washington D.C.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Where there's not there's I can't remember the name of the TV show that used to be on CBS, right? Where they would go through and they would triangulate through all these cameras, right? And then zoom in and be like, oh, there it was, and it moved, right? That's going to become a reality in the majority of the big cities that exist. And so we've just got to be cognizant of what this means, because I think the advances outweigh us not doing it, and I think it needs to happen. But we've got to stay aware. So as everyday citizens, we've got to make sure that we're holding our elected officials accountable, because if these things get hacked, if these things are used, for nefarious reasons, if these things are not used appropriately, then there can be serious problems. And this is why, for me, so Aaron, for me, diversity is a humongous thing, because as we build more AI and machine learning into everything that we do, if it's being built by one class of people,
it's biased.
It's biased,
no doubt. I
just
saw a thing about that in banking the other day. Well, Larry, you're totally fascinating. I think we're going to have Larry back. You think he'd do it for you, Aaron? I don't think
Of course he would, because we didn't even get into the whole building cyber talent in the future and the
okay. So that's going to be a whole other show. Yeah. So Larry, you're a good guy. It's fun to have you on, man. And the greatest value tonight is to be able to tell my wife, I just talked to a cybersecurity expert who has echoes in his home, because she's positive.
She's positive that's
positive that everything we do is being.
See, now you're saying that word because that's not what you have, but that's what I have.
They are called echoes. That's just the funniest word that wakes them up. They
yeah,
are echoes.
you do realize
you can
that
change it.
my
right?
husband's name
Right.
is like my phone. So every time I'm like, "Hey Cyril," like Siri always thinks I'm talking to her.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can change her too. She'll have
Yeah.
a different.
I don't know
wake-up
how to
word.
do that. Again, I
You
have
can
no
do
idea
it.
how to use these things.
All right,
so-
guys, we're out of time.
you,
So,
Larry.
Larry, thank you so much. Good to have you here, and Aaron, always good to see you. And Ryan,
Yeah,
it was great,
tune in
great
next
to have
week.
Ryan here if he's still listening. And
I
next
know.
week, so Larry,
We
you got to
have-
come back. Will you do it?
Absolutely.
All right.
We have the
me.
rabbi, the priest, and the pastor walk into a bar next week. Everyone's waiting for that
And
joke.
the cybersecurity guy. All
Yes,
right, everybody.
have a
We
nice
love
week.
you. We miss you. We're praying for you. Take care. We'll see you next week on Soul Cafe or sooner. Bye bye.
Take care. Thanks.